Welcome to BeerNet Radio. Listen to on every continent except Antarctica.
Hear Harry
BeerNet
sighing
Radio.
very heavily. I don't know. What is? Are you going fishing? What is that hat?
Bucket hat here?
He's styling. That's what the Gen Z wears.
Sports.
Oh, Lone Star.
He couldn't wear a Miller hat, but he can wear a Lone Star hat. Okay.
But problem with going cordless is you have to charge everything. I don't know if this is any better. This has a brand on it too. Does anybody care about Lone Star?
Why don't you just turn it to the side?
Harry,
Oh,
you have a Beer Business Daily hat.
Does
you
that look
are
cool,
a brand.
Jen? Is that cool? You want me to look cool
That
like
looks
that?
really cool.
Did the other way look cool? I'm confused.
I like the backwards baseball hat better.
Me too.
Fine.
Jordan, how was the Hotlanta weekend?
It was good. It's always good seeing my old buddies. We went to the game. Ole Miss was playing Georgia Tech. That's why I went.
Nice.
We had a good time. Ole Miss laid a beat down. So
Jordan, you didn't go for a good time. You went for a long time. Or is it the opposite?
I think it's the
I
opposite.
just couldn't take you serious with the backwards. Come on.
Well, he's
Is this-
B-boy.
Does this take away a little of my gravitas?
I love it.
You look like you should work at Brewbound.
I'm just here as your clown. Everybody make y'all laugh. Fuck the hat.
There you go. There you go,
I don't
Harry.
need no stinking hat. Everybody knows I'm bald. What am I trying to hide?
Why don't you tie a
Jeez.
little bandana around your head? How about that? That would be
I don't know
cool.
where I have Beer Business Daily hats all over the place, and of course they disappear.
Do you have a gator? You can just throw a gator on your head.
Like I'm skiing. Just get enough out of you. Enough. I'll put you on next time. You know that I'm dealing with equipment. There's never enough equipment. I mean, it's a Zoom podcast. Really, I don't even need a mic. I just need an iPhone. I could do this from my car, but no, I have to have all this equipment. It's a weird urge, and it makes it maybe 5% better. I mean, it's not even worth. And then also I have to build two studios, one at my desk, which is where I'm sitting now. And then I don't want to have to move my equipment every time. So I have another little setup over on the couch in the Lazy Boy, the Barca Lounger, if you will, so that Biscuit can join in on the fun sometimes and be on the podcast. Because, she doesn't get a lot of action. So, all right, guys, let's start this bitch. So listen. Welcome to BeerNet Radio, the podcast where all your dreams come true. We are the companion podcast, obviously, of Beer Business Daily, read every morning all around the world except Antarctica. Joined today by our editors, Jen Litz-Kirk, Jordan Driggers, and we are welcoming back our legal correspondent, Bianca Bruno, to give us some of the lowlights and highlights of the Monster Bang case and the drama. This is part 2 of our series. If you go back, you can watch, click on the top here and you can see the first one. Bianca has also covered all 7 days of the trial. If you go back in Beer Business Daily and read her coverage, which I did yesterday, I reread it and it's fascinating. So, if you're asking why covering this trial of energy drinks, of the giants of the energy drink industry, and well, a couple of reasons. One, of both of these brands were built by beer distributors, and now both these companies are coming back to beer distributors for their alcohol versions. And then also, we get interesting intel from these trials. This is information that companies would not normally divulge, and because it's a trial, they have to. And so I'm really glad that it worked out, Bianca, that you could. Well, not only that you're close by Riverside, so it wasn't too hard for you to get there. And so we were able to cover it, and we had some interesting things. So you know what I like to do, right? I like to tell you my perceptions of what I've read, and then you tell me whether I'm wrong or right. This is a game we play, Bianca, on the podcast. It's called, what should we call this segment?
Harry knows best.
I mean... I was gonna say that, Jen, but
Were you really?
Yeah, it's too presumptuous. But anyway,
If
so
you say it.
if I say it, so
Harry knows best. Or does he?
Or does he?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not sure if I like the second part, Jordan, but we'll go with it.
Tired.
Let's holster that for now, and then we'll put a pin in it. To me, this trial, it hinges on two things, right? One is super creatine. Is it even real? Is there enough of it in there, or is it false advertising? From what I've read, Bianca, it looks like they've established through a lot of testimony from scientists and whatever that is a problem for them. Number two is the whole issue of stealing shelf space, which to us is anathema or strange, because in the beer industry, that's how we steal shelf space, is by stealing it. That's the only way we get shelf space, because we don't pay for it. And so that's how we do it. We take it in the store. Well, the non-out guys pay for their space. So if somebody steals it, it actually means something. And, like one of the interesting things is that the tobacco line at Walmart is the most valuable real estate in America because it's open 24/7. And I mean, I never even thought of that. And that's just one brilliant little nugget. So first of all, I know I'm talking a lot and then I'll shut up, but first of all, am I right in that those are the two main things? And second of all, between the two of those things, how is Bang doing, do you think?
I would agree that those are the two main things. There is a third main thing, which I think is less consequential for Monster, especially after their damages expert testified last week. And that's related to stolen trade secrets that are alleged to have been taken by a former Monster, higher level sales executive who then went to Bang and took with him 5 thumb drives that contained like old sales presentations given to distributors and retailers and that kind of thing. But Monster's expert only quantified that as costing them 15 grand.
Yeah, I saw that.
So,
like, why even bother bringing it up? I mean, that's a rounding error.
I mean, really, the trial is truly about super creatine.
Right.
Which is a couple of the attorneys have kind of razzed me now that they kind of know, I'm sure the distributors are sharing our stories with them. I don't know that.
Well, I heard that this podcast is required listening for the Monster legal teams.
So they're kind of amused that I've kind of indicated, we're interested in the super creatine issue, but that's not pertinent to our business and what we're looking to learn from the trial.
Right.
But like you've pointed out, we've learned a lot of other nuggets. And since I'm still new on the job, I don't really know what nuggets are interesting or not.
Well, that's what's great about it, because you just write everything. And honestly, you've picked up really quickly. I mean, Jordan and Jen, y'all have edited more, but I ducked in the article last night and I just changed a few words. It was pretty, right, guys? Or is Bianca just a disaster and that
No.
not
She's
telling her?
It's required little to no editing.
Yeah.
There's been a few things that, and we don't change anything. It's just like Jen and I see something like a date, or like going back a couple days before this last one, there was one where Bang was talking about how they were already transitioning to Pepsi and this was the plan. And this was like 2018, like 2 years before they even announced they were going to Pepsi. And I was like, okay, we should probably note that this date is a little peculiar, because this was set well before they ever told beer distributors. So just adding a little background.
This whole thing, it just it verifies what I've always suspected about non-alc and specifically energy drink people, is that they're just as shady, or if not shadier, than beer guys. And we're pretty shady, like, I mean, that's the other thing, like poaching executives and taking decks over and thumb drives. It's pretty common, I think, but it only cost him $16,000. I guarantee you, Rodney has spent more than $16,000 already today, and it's not even noon. And so, anyway, all right. So go ahead.
Jordan pointed that out to me, and I was like, it's tough, because in trial, even sometimes the way they introduce evidence through witnesses can be choppy. So sometimes it's kind of smooth. You get more of like a story arc with whatever they're trying to say. And I think once they start running out of time, it starts getting choppier. Like, I believe Monster technically ran out of time, like their trial time given to them by the judge last week. But he gave them more time. He was less strict than other trials I've seen. But like, they'll just kind of get in a witness, get them on a stand really quick because they need this one thing to come in because they want the jury to consider it. But then it's not bookended. It doesn't have any context. So like when Jordan pointed out, why are they talking about Pepsi in 2018? This wasn't until 2020. And I'm like, well, all the evidence related to this case, which is also kind of strange, especially with like the super creatine issue, is back from when it was filed in 2018. And they don't give context. They're just mentioning Pepsi. Pepsi's not on trial.
Right.
I wish we had more info related to it, but that's kind of all that came out.
What the hell happened to
or that I was there for. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think lawyers often have to walk the line between building a narrative that's interesting to the jury that they can follow along and also laying down the evidence. And so it's like the nerd stuff and the emotional stuff. And a lot of times they skew one way or the other too much. I don't know what that in this trial, but yeah, it is hard because you do have to keep the interest of the jury, and not all of this is fascinating to me. I could sit here and I wish I had a recording. I could listen all day long and pick out stuff, but to a jury, this stuff has to be like Greek, a lot of it, and they're all sitting there going, "Why are we fighting about energy drinks? Like what?" And to us, it's super important, right? This is very, very important. These are big dollars. These are big gross margin dollars out in the market. But to a layman, it'd be like, why are they fighting over super creatine of all things? But yeah, okay. So anyway, go ahead. So, it's very, so there's really three things. And do you get a sense, I know I asked you this last time and this is tough, but do you get a sense of which way the jury's going on these, or is it hard to tell?
They're starting to look bored.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a while. I think when everything's said and done, it's going to be exactly a month, if not a little bit longer, which is a long time. I mean, they're there Tuesday through Friday from basically 9 to 5. I mean, it's basically a job. They're kind of putting their lives on hold during this trial, I think.
And that's long, right? For a trial like that? I mean,
my experience covering trials, I always end up covering these very lengthy civil trials. I mean, civil trials just by their nature are longer than criminal, but I would say that's fairly long for an issue that does seem pretty narrowed down. Like the case has been significantly narrowed since Monster originally filed it, and that's because the judge threw out some of their original claims.
Right.
So really, for it to come down to the super creatine thing, to me, they really beat that dead horse a bit the first week. I mean, to me, they already had that nailed the first week. Right. And they can choose at any point, like if they think, yeah, we've driven the message home, we don't need to call all these other witnesses who are on our standby list. They could have given up their seat at the table earlier, and then everyone would be going home earlier. Because to me, they definitely got the point across that the super creatine issue is I don't think there's any question that there's a negligible amount of it, and that is not creatine. It doesn't have the performance energy factors of creatine. But then last week the damages expert did touch on that because Monster funded a consumer survey about Bang drinkers, and asked them, if Bang didn't have super creatine, would you still buy it? And 3/4 of them would. So, and so basically he quantified that to Monster losing, 1 of 5 cans of Bang should have been Monster sales, which isn't a crazy amount, but it's definitely in the millions.
Bianca, you covered the Stone and Molson Coors trial. Did the jury on that seem more or less interested in that case than what you're seeing with Bang and VPX? And did you feel like you had a better read on how the Molson Coors Stone trial was going to pan out than this one?
I thought that one was a lot closer because both sides really presented evidence that could go either way. I don't think there was any question that Molson Coors called, cartons of Keystone Light, 30 stones in like the late 80s, early 90s, and Stone was founded in 96. So they were making that reference. But to me, the issue was they didn't have the trademark and Stone did. And if you're asking like a regular lay person to decide a business dispute and one of them has an official document with a seal on it and one doesn't, then that to me is like an easy decision for them, even if they're like, yeah, they called it Stone, they had advertising calling it Stone, but they didn't have the trademark and they're a huge company. Why didn't they have this trademark? Like, that's an oversight. So that's to me maybe what it came down to. But then of course Stone did not get even half as much money as I think they originally asked for. So I think that's a way the jury kind of evened things out.
Yeah.
In this case, I think there's really no doubt about the super creatine issue. I think there are doubts about the shelf space and the degree to which it was happening because there's not a whole lot of physical evidence, which was discussed last week. I mean, there's basically a couple of photos floating around, and I don't necessarily doubt that it happened, but I don't know that they can say it happened as frequently as they're claiming because they don't have the evidence to back it up. And that could be why, I was kind of scratching my head, and so was the other reporter who's been covering the case about why they didn't quantify, the damages to lost shelf space. And I don't know if any of you have a take on that, but we were both kind of surprised that wasn't calculated in the damages.
It's very hard to quantify that. People have tried, but as far as the pervasiveness of taking coolers, you're right. There wasn't a lot of evidence. It probably was pretty pervasive. Like I said, that's a common practice in the beer industry. Also, I will note that during that time, Bang was distributed by AB distributors who had just lost Monster. So that might be the distributors out there doing that kind of shenanigans. Who knows? I don't want to throw any stones out here, but that the distributor's the one who puts the stuff in the cooler, not Bang. It's they're the one that's merchandise. Anyway, so go ahead, Jen. It looks like you had something to say.
Oh no, I was just thinking as we were comparing to other cases, like we talked about this a couple weeks ago. There was that Blue Moon case a few years ago, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was like a class action suit, I think, where craft brewers were like suing Blue Moon for saying it was craft or something like that. And ultimately, I think it got decided in favor of Molson Coors because of puffery, right? The whole concept of puffery, well, it's marketing. So like, is there any chance that this jury is going to, be explained what puffery or, be explained to it? I don't know. Sorry, it's Monday. But like, going to be presented with the concept of puffery and maybe you could find for this, or like, that's probably completely anathema to your layperson, right?
They were asked, that was one of the questions the very first day during jury selection, that they asked the entire group of, I don't know how many people it was, more than 60 who were being considered for the jury, if any of them knew what puffery was. And then one said yes. And then they used that person as kind of a way to explain it. The term has come up a couple of times. I think Meg Owak, who's Jack Owak's wife. He's the owner of Bang, and she's the director of marketing at Bang. I think she may have been asked about that on the stand a bit, but it's really kind of in the background. And like, I don't even know if when Jack was on the stand, I can't really recall him using puffery as a defense. Or even like Bang's attorneys certainly are not driving home puffery as a defense, even when they're questioning these scientists about well, I guess the scientists would they
Right.
wouldn't speak to puffery. That would be more of a marketing person. But in what I have seen, they are not really leaning on that as a defense, maybe as much as they could. So we'll see. Like, I think, obviously, like, closing arguments in the case will maybe be this week, maybe early next week. And that's that's another thing in the legal system that's kind of strange, because it's not evidence. The jury is instructed not to consider it as evidence. It's just like opening arguments, and it's just supposed to be what the attorneys think that they have proven is like their synopsis, their take on their case that they gave to the jury. So it would be interesting to see if puffery comes up during that, because they haven't really had a super strong defense on the super creatine.
Yeah, that was my other
claims.
question. It's like, basically the way I'm reading it is like, they're being accused of false advertisement with super creatine, and instead of saying, no, well, they are saying super creatine is real, but they're also saying it doesn't matter, right? Like,
Yeah.
super creatine doesn't matter because it's not what sells the cans, as
Yeah.
though that were a direct answer to whether or not they're false advertising, right? It's
Yeah.
like things going
Right.
this way, but anyway.
Yeah, they're kind of preemptively abandoning it as maybe the original differentiation factor that it was when Bang got really big in like 2018. And like Harry said, he's like, yeah, I look at their TikTok and stuff, and they're not talking about that anymore.
Super creatine, yeah.
Definitely. And one of the things that you said on the last podcast, Bianca, was why haven't they removed it from the can? And I
Yeah.
was thinking about that and I thought it might be they're leaving it on the can to have something to take away.
Bargaining chip.
Yeah. Like, all right, you know what? We're not going to pay $225 million, but what we are going to do is take super creatine off the can. Kind of like with Molson Coors, they preemptively took, Stone off the Keystone Light cans. But there could have been a case to wait and say, and make it part of the punishment, if you will, or, the settling up stage. But I don't know. I don't know if they're that sophisticated. It sounds like they're running that thing just putting out trash fires and they obviously are doing something right. The brand is incredible. It came out of nowhere. It's done billions in sales. But from people I speak to, they're hard to get a hold of. They don't return phone calls. They don't get back on contracts. It sounds like there's just a lot of disorganization going over there.
Yeah.
How many employees do they have? Did they say that at all, or?
They did.
I'm sure they're smaller than
You're gonna fact
Monster.
check me on the spot.
Sorry,
Jen.
no, I'm just curious because it is such a shit show.
I know. I'm pretty sure there's between 70 and 80 people on the marketing team. I do remember that. I don't remember total employees. I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
That's all they have. I mean, I'm sure that's mostly what they have is sales and marketing. I don't think they even make it. We're going to do a taste test on the next podcast.
Oh God.
With rain, and I don't.
This tastes like super creatine.
Listen, I went to the south side of San Antonio this weekend to a flea market and bought all their super creatine. It's in concentrated form, and I have just been on fire. I've gained muscle mass. My brain is clicking on all cylinders.
I think that's probably why they can't really rely on the puffery argument, is because they said they created something and put it in the can. And
Right.
I don't
That
know.
could
Puffery
that could still
involved.
be puffery, right? Everything's marketing. I think the difference between though creatine is actually something, right? Creatine
Right.
is actually a particular thing, and so as opposed to craft, which is what the hell is craft, right? Like one
Yeah.
is subjective, one is so. That makes
This is
sense.
super creatine, Jen. It's different. Okay. It's super.
I've got some Uber creatine coming out.
You should Orange Bang. I mean,
Right.
somebody's gonna write a book about all this shit because it's so wonderful.
I mean, that sounds like something you would do, Harry. Why don't, with all your
know.
time, why don't you do that?
With all my time. I know y'all think I just sit here and just play with my
I'm just
computers.
kidding. You know, that
I mean,
was
I do. So
Yeah.
I wanna show you guys my new Japanese pill case. It's metal. Hear that?
Yeah.
And it holds my little. Well, you see, I'm empty. My little tobacco pouches. Oh shit! I need to go get more. So and it's crafted. It's stainless steel, and then of course it has my little patch of Velcro on the back. All
Velcro
right,
man.
I'm Velcro man. Jen, are you going to Nashville?
No,
Okay,
no,
I
I'm
saw it on
not.
the calendar that, and I wasn't sure if you were just marking it or if you were.
Yeah,
going, okay.
sorry, I should know. I'm going to. You guys are doing Nashville, and I've gotten 10 questions. You guys better text all of them because they want to make sure you're there. Okay.
Yes.
So-
Okay, good. Jordan, I'm on your flight, I believe.
Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
there.
Thanks
on
for
Wednesday.
getting that 6 a.m. flight. I
I
appreciate
told
that.
you.
Jesus.
I told you to pick a different one.
Are you guys gonna do an on the scene pod? You gonna...
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, I'll don't worry. I have equipment.
Hopefully, it's not like Vegas, Jordan.
No, I got my own
equipment.
equipment now too.
We're gonna cut this in post.
No, we're not. We never do.
All right. Well, who do we have next on this illustrious?
We have. Is this our commercial? Tomorrow we've got Liquid Opportunities. I forget what they do, but they're supposed to be good. And then next week we have Chris Stefanchi, so that should be really good, and Island Brands too. So, which is
Cool.
a up and comer. So, no, but let me find. I ain't gonna do Liquid Opportunities like that. Let's look them up.
This is called on the fly editing.
Let's see. Tune teaser. Here we go. Do you guys want to know what these people do?
It sounds
There we
like they
go.
give opportunities to folks who sell liquid.
Right, exactly. Harry, you nailed it. He's apparently this guy has created all sorts of hit brands, and now they are, to your point. We should just really cut this in post.
No. This is what people
Well,
tune
here
in
we
for,
go.
Jen.
Oh, it's a hotline submission. That's how it happened. Jason Kane, former president of Mark Anthony Group, one of the key creators of Mike's Hard Lemonade, and has managed and owned beer distributors.
Listen, I'd love to sit here and just bullshit with you people all day, but somebody has to get back to work and secure your collective futures.
Yep. Jason Kane of Liquid Opportunities.
Yeah,
I think that's his name. Anyway, he'll be on next week, maybe.
that is a great plug, Jen. I'm sure people are dying to get on this podcast now. You are the best producer.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know what happened? I went to the Mighty Swell Keep It Weird Party Friday, and they had some early bird CBD THC gummies, and I may have had one this morning.
Those have like 1.5 milligrams. I've had early bird.
I
know
do
those
that
guys.
at all. So that I'm actually like,
All right. Well, have a good week, and we'll shout at you guys next week where we have a great podcast coming for you with Liquid Opportunities.
and
Take
Chris
care.
Stefanchi
And Chris Stefanchi.
the following week, and
The following
Island
week.
Brands.
Good Lord, we got it stacked. We're stacking pods here. All right. Thanks for drinking beer, guys. And thanks, Bianca. Carry on. See you later.